Anno 117 Pax Romana has just come out, and with it, so many people are jumping into their first Anno title. It can be a bit daunting to learn a whole new set of mechanics. This game has so many layers to it: city building, trade, economy, naval, and infantry warfare, but it does a great job of stepping you through that process with each layer. Well, in this video, I'm partnering up with Ubisoft to help you in building your first Roman city in Anno 117. So a huge shout out and thank you to Ubisoft for sponsoring this video. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by uploading the knowledge of my videos. So with that being said, it is a bit challenging to sum up an entire walkthrough of the beginning of the game, but let me tell you that this game really comes down to satisfying the needs of your populace. If you're stuck on income, production, trade, etc., it's probably because there's a need that's not being met by one portion of your population. Outside of that, I want to remind you that this game is complex and struggling is entirely fine. It's how we get better at challenging games. If you can't figure something out, just stick with it a little bit longer, or there's a good chance I hit it in this video. The game was meant to be solved. I spent time with the developers having them teach me the game, and they did a great job of breaking down how most of the game is broken into small time puzzles around production or little requirements for each step of your growing city. Don't worry about min-maxing or making the absolute best super high production city. Learn the basics, enjoy the process, and then next time you play, really fine-tune how you build out everything to maximize certain things if you want. The joy of Anno is that you can be as laid back or as sweaty as you want, so enjoy the ride. But that's too long to watch this entire video. I'll be giving you further details and concrete examples of how this all comes together. But if that's all you want to know, please feel free to shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. You can navigate ahead to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chapters with the timeline in the description. And if you are heading out and you found the information in this video helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as each one of those things helps me out in a huge way. Remember, Anno 117 Pax Romana just released on PC across Ubisoft Connect, Steam, and Epic Game Store, as well as Xbox and PS5. So if you haven't bought the game yet, make sure you check out my link in the description to pick it up. Lastly, you can find a link to my Twitch where I'll be playing Anno live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Let's get started on building your first city in Anno 117 Pax Romana. So loading into the game, let's talk about just getting started. Now, first off, we have game mode selection. I'm going to be focusing on the endless portion of Anno 117. If you want, you can absolutely be jumping into the campaign. That holds a whole different process and how it goes about things, but we're going to be talking about endless in this video. So we're going to go ahead and press continue. You're going to choose a portrait. It does not matter. It has no effect on your character, let alone your banner and its color. So just choose whatever makes sense for you. We'll just click a character, click a thing, and we'll click continue to difficulty. So now we have our difficulties: normal, advanced, and veteran. Honestly, if you're just getting started, go with normal. You're not really going to deal with much of anything, really. You're not going to deal with a whole ton of hostility. You're going to have plenty of time to get a sense for how the game operates, because on the very bottom level, it's easy to say that Anno is simply a city sim where you're just building a city, but that is really not the case. There is a large economy system you're going to have to deal with as you progress through the tiers of your pops and the game. In addition to that too, there is quite a bit of combat that's going to kick in. Normal is really not going to force you into any combat, versus veteran is going to beat the brakes off pretty quickly. This guy right over here, the Egyptian dude, just absolutely wrecks house in no time flat. But you can see that there are an effect on a lot of different things. So construction cost refund is full, versus advanced is half, and veteran is none. So if you break something down, you don't get any money back on veteran, and you only get half back on advanced. So normal gives you a lot of leeway to just explore the game and understand it before you jump into a lot of the harder things. And fertilities and loads is abundant. Now, that doesn't mean anything to you because you're brand new to the game, but what that means is all of the, let's just say, starting resources that are accessible by your first island are going to be abundant, versus having only just a few on advanced or even less on veteran, meaning you're going to have to expand to more settlements faster. This gives you the chance to really sink into that first island and get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Now we're going to go ahead and press continue with our normal selected, and you can change this. You can get pretty granular with it, but just for now, since we're just getting started, just go ahead with normal. Now governors here allows you to kind of modularly change the way that these rivals, as they're called, are interacting with you. You can actually just completely remove them if you want and just play a game like this, but it's fun to interact with them and get yourself a sense of how interaction works, because it's a big portion of the game. But you could even kind of get really granular with this too, right? And get a normal, advanced, and veteran governor in there. But for this video, like I said, again, we're just going to be simply looking at all of the base normal stuff. And then once we go to continue, we are set to go. So our last thing here is on our province selection. If you're just getting started, start with Latium. Now, Albion is also very fun, and it's unique and it's different, but there's a lot of mechanics that are not necessarily strange, but the more you know about the game, the better you're going to be able to hit those mechanics running. If you start with Albion, don't worry, you're going to be fine. It's really going to come down to securing or creating your production line more than anything. So don't worry too much. Play with the one that you really want. But my recommendation for people just starting out is Latium is way easier, because production is very one-to-one, or at least easy to understand. Now, what that means is it's easy to set up your production for all of your many resources you'll need on a very easy basis. And we'll talk about that in the production section. But now that we're done, we just go ahead and press set sail and get started. So we've just loaded in, and I'm going to keep tutorial tips on, so you'll see these things pop up and I'll address them in due time. But what we've got here is our starting settlement. I'm going to go ahead and press spacebar on PC to pause the game, and we're going to be able to look at things from here. So let me break down a couple things really quick. At the very top, we're going to have our total amount of denarii, or money, gold, whatever you want to call it. It's called denarii. We have our balance sheet. This is going to be pretty huge. You're going to be looking at this a lot. You're not going to actually maybe look at this by hovering over it, but you're just going to have your eye on it a lot, because you want to make sure you're always running a positive balance. Don't worry, you're always going to start off at a negative, and this is very easy to play around with. Then we're going to have our total population, followed by our knowledge, our actual character. We have our current workforce, which is basically who's working on what, and this will start to grow as we add more classes of citizens to our city. And then we're going to also have our island income and our island population. This bottom bar right here, and also this bar for that matter, will both expand as we go through the game, as we get access to different types of workforce or citizen types, pops as it were, as we get access to other things like fire safety, health, happiness, knowledge, belief. They will start to populate this bar here that will eventually go all the way over to here. Now, above this is a very important thing. You do have the name of your city that you can change, but there's this right here. This is the tier of your city status, as it were. And it will continue to push through this progression by the population that you've got. And this will change as you get further and further. But for example, here, to go from outpost to the next city status is going to cost 200 total population. I say cost, I mean, you're going to have 200 population. What a great video. I've already messed up. But this will start to then have effects per residence. It'll start to increase maybe happiness or income, or as you get larger and larger, maybe it'll reduce health. There's things you're going to have to take a look at as you hit the next tier. So don't worry about it right now, but just know that that's there. On the left side of the screen, we're going to have the fertility of our island. You don't have to really worry about this just yet. We are going to talk about it eventually, though, so don't worry. We will get into that. And this is actually perfect, so we can talk about that more. This is randomized. When you load into the game, this could be any number of things, but this is how it is right now. We're also going to have our number of river slots. If we go ahead and click this, it'll drag us to one. And then we're going to have our number of mountain slots. You'll use these for two different production buildings. You'll have our province button, so you can press this button and switch between Latium or Albion. Now, depending on where you start, since we're starting in Latium here, we can eventually move to Albion, and Albion vice versa over to Latium. We also have the province map, which we can click and just kind of gives us a lot more detailed look at everything. We're going to have our speeds right here that we can go ahead and cycle through, our time of day that shows us what time of day we're actually in, and we can adjust that accordingly, and day-night cycles, all sorts of stuff. Then at the bottom, we're going to have pretty much all of our important build stuff, like, hey, here's our timber, and this is going to allow this stuff right here. We have our build menu right here. We have our ornaments menu, which we'll talk about later. And we're going to have just kind of shortcuts that are right here. And you can change these shortcuts through a lot of like wizardry later. But like, for example, I can go ahead and click on my flagship, press Control 1, and that is now added into my shortcuts. So if you've played strategy games before, you know that that's a mechanic that you've probably dealt with. And then over here we have ships and land troops. You'll have those things that you'll take part in later in the game, not in the beginning. And also too, we have all of our means of, building. So we've got demolish. Now, what I want you to take a look at is below this. It says demolish tool is X. Just try to memorize what these shortcut keys are for whatever console or PC you're playing on. So X or G to relocate, or U to upgrade, or C to copy, or well, customize tool. You're going to use them a ton. So just know that. And if you can't find them, you can just go ahead and click right there. And the last thing to take a look at real quickly over here are our quest tracker, our notifications, if there are any. And they'll just kind of be cycled into this. And notifications are going to be displayed up here. Will pop up a little talking head up here, like this guy just said this. So I missed it. So I can go ahead and click this again, and he'll go ahead and say what it was. So if you missed that, it's in the notifications tab. You've got your research tab, your religion tab, and then your prestige tab, as well as your trade routes and your diplomacy. We'll go through all those things as we jump into those things as they come up in this video. But for right now, that is your UI and how you navigate it. Let's get started on making our city. So the first thing that I actually like to do is I click on my flagship, and I'm going to hold down the shift button on, again, a PC. And if I right click, you can see that it sets waypoints, right? So if I unpause, the flagship will cycle through those waypoints. Now, what I want this flagship to do is explore more of the map for me. So what I'm going to do here real quick is we'll pause. I'm going to just end that. We'll pause, and I'm going to hold down shift, and I'm going to right click here on the map, here on the map, here on the map, and here on the map, and then just bring it back here. I'm going to miss spots, and I can dynamically change this as they're going through it and maybe focus on certain things. But this gives me some initial ways to discover the map and also see where all the other governors are. So we'll unpause and let that guy do his thing for now. Now, this is our trading post. Our trading post acts as an initial warehouse. Warehouses are important because they store all of the goods of your entire island. You'll need multiple warehouses because warehouses are where your production buildings, your pops, everything will pull resources from. Warehouses do not matter as far as what gets placed into what. All warehouses have the same items in them. So for example, if I had a warehouse, let's just say up here, it wouldn't matter if I put all of my, let's just say honey into here, then it appears in this one. So don't worry about the placement of a lot of things. And that's a big lesson I want to teach you just up front. Don't worry about where you place stuff. So first off, we know that we now need to kind of establish an actual city, right? So let's go ahead and draw a road down. You can do whatever kind of tomfoolery you want with that. But the biggest thing for that, oh, hey, we already discovered our first rival. I'll just go ahead and say hi to him. Now, the first thing that we're going to need is wood. I got it, Tarragon, but I'm making a video right now. I need you to chill. So the first thing we need is wood. Remember how I talked about production times? Well, one thing we're going to take a look at here, and we'll explain this more as we get into more complex ones, is the processing time right below wood. It says 30 seconds. And then the processing time for the sawmill to take that wood and make it into timber is 30 seconds. It's a 1-to-1. It's a good, quick, and easy production. So what we do here is we want to click the woodcutter and drag around and find a place that this makes 100%. You can drag and drop and change these things dynamically, so don't worry about getting too locked in. Like for example here, I'm going to place this there. But you know what? I actually don't want that there. We click the relocate tool or press G. Let me just move it over here if we want. You know, you're not locked into any of this. And this is going to be something that I'm going to show you a lot in this video. So we've placed our woodcutter down. Now we need a sawmill. But we also need to make sure that this woodcutter can get to the actual trading post. So there we go. We have a road for it. We need a sawmill so that we can process those resources. Now you can see that that thing's got a little check mark. What you'll also see is when I go to place this sawmill, you see how the road turns green? It means that the sawmill has range on anything that is green on that, meaning it will go pull that resource from that location. So in this example here, the sawmill, the refinery for the production of the wood cannot reach that actual woodcutter. So it's going to go pull it from someplace else. See how this can actually store the wood? So it'll go try to pull it from the warehouse. And in this case, I can reach the warehouse. But we want to make sure that that green check mark is checked. So that allows our sawmill to go ahead and pull from it. So just to kind of break this down very quickly here, we're going to pull, this woodcutter is going to make one piece of wood, let's just say, and it will then take that wood and make one piece of timber from the sawmill. That is the one-to-one that it's going to operate under. So let that do its thing. So now we have to, once this starts generating a little bit of wood, make some buildings. So let's go ahead and fast forward and actually talk about our Libertas. You know, I said fast forward, we don't need to fast forward. And I don't know why I said Libertas, it's Libertas. But either way, we're gonna make some residents. So we're gonna go ahead and click this building and we're gonna make them. Now you can make them in whatever fashion you want. There's probably gonna be some sort of video out there that explains the min-max of how to place this and blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I'm gonna place things the way that I wanna place them. And I encourage you to do the same because remember, placing these doesn't mean anything. We can quickly swap these locations however we want by using the relocate tool and just putting them over here if we want, whatever it is. So don't feel locked in no matter what you do in this game. You can just kind of quickly move it around. I've chosen to make my buildings like this because it is reminiscent of renditions of portrayals of Roman city blocks. So I've done that. And then I go ahead and press my road button, click on one of these buildings, and it will make a road all the way around them. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Now, when you make buildings, you can drag like that. Oh, or mess it up like I just did. So again, this instructional video is so instructional. You can drag and drop, or you can just simply left click, whatever one kind of makes the most sense. Like I probably always end up doing the single ones just because I'm always trying to be pretty nuanced with where I place things. I get very into the role play of it all. But we need to make 4 more of these now. So we're going to go ahead and just make a couple more over here. Now, just make sure though that you keep this in mind. You see how this woodcutter says 107 out of 80? We want to make sure that that stays that way. And if we don't, it will start to eat away the productivity of the woodcutter. So what we want to do here is, I don't want to place this right here because it's going to take trees away from this circle that the woodcutter operates in. So if I were, for example, to put this right here, you can see that took away quite a few trees. We had that number at a much higher one before. We bring it back and those trees just come back. So you're okay to kind of move these around if you make a mistake on accident. So don't worry about it. But eventually though, you'll expand and say, hey, I want to use this location. That would be a time when I would just move the woodcutter over here or what have you. So let's go ahead, put this guy over here and make these last 4. So now we have enough to have the beginning of a supply of workforce. We have enough citizens that will start to populate. Now these citizens are going to do quite a bit for us. So let's go ahead now and talk about the needs of our citizens. So every single citizen type, there's going to be different tiers, different names, all sorts of stuff, will have needs. So for example, here, we've just unlocked our Libertai, and we have the need here of sardines and porridge. We're going to show this off in the actual menus too. So the sardines are going to generate for us income and population, and then the porridge is going to generate population. What you need to know is this thing says +1 and +1 and then +2 down here. That is on a per residence basis. So this allows us to get lots of money by just simply giving them sardines. That's it. You just need to satisfy the needs of your populace to really stabilize your entire economy. So right now we're at -112, right? Well, we need sardines. That's going to be a big thing here. So let's go ahead and click this button and drop this little sardine hut right over here, this little fishing hut. And there we go. So now we have a means of producing sardines. So with that, we also need to click on this house. So this is the residence for our specific citizen. And on the right side, you're going to see all those needs reflected. You're going to see their food needs, their public service needs, and then their fashion needs. And these needs will expand as you upgrade to different types of residents. And we'll expand on that further and later. So I'm going to pause this again so we don't get any more interruptions here. We're going to click this, this, and this. Well, just one at a time, I guess. What you can see here is these are all of the food needs that are needed to fulfill the food need for your Libertas or Libertas residents. And you'll see that there are three bars that fill up around this little upgrade button. And once we satisfy all three of these sets of needs, these need categories as they're called, it will then enable me to upgrade this resident to the next one. But you can see here that this need category for food requires both sardines and porridge. So I need to make both of these products to fulfill this category. And I need to make I need to make both a market and a tavern to satisfy the public service need. And lastly, we need to make both tunics and pileus for the fashion need. So let's go ahead now and make porridge. Now, porridge is very similar to what we saw here with timber, right? And we're going to have this working on a very similar basis. This is going to take 1 minute to process the oat farm. So it's going to take 1 minute basically to harvest oats. And then it's going to take me a processing time here of porridge stand of 1 minute. So it's going to take me 1 minute to take that oat from the oat field and turn it into a unit of porridge. So we also go ahead and place this down. I'm going to slap it somewhere. Again, please do these things how you see fit. That kind of fits how you want to lay your city out. Don't look at mine and go, I got to make it just like his. Well, this oat farm doesn't work on its own. We have to make a field, a cultivation area. Multiple buildings will have different cultivation areas. Like a sheep farm requires you to have a cultivation of sheep. We're going to talk later about flour and wheat, and very, very soon, actually. So all of these things kind of come together to make the various farms that you'll need to operate with. So let's go ahead and click this, and you can see that we can drag this farm wherever we want, but it has to be basically touching the production building that it's coming from. And you can wrap this around like that if you want. You can just have it extend out if you want, however you want. You can hold down Shift to make this be as big or as small as you want it to be. Just know that look on the right side over there. It says Oatfield Cultivation Area. We just have to make sure that we hit 80 units large, right? So even though I'm holding down Shift, I can make this 180. It doesn't help me. It doesn't mean that I now cultivate 180 total field. It just means that I've made this thing 180 large. So we just are going to remove Shift, and just let this thing kind of naturally kind of be whatever it wants. And it's going to be, if you're very strict about the shape of it not being like funky, like you don't want it to look like a funky Tetris cube. Wow. I guess there's no real examples of that. Well, you can go ahead and like do something like this and kind of frame it around that if you want, Here, that's kind of fits the city block. And again, like everything else in this game, if you want, you can move it around, you can demolish all this and just go ahead and place it again. Don't worry about it. So now that we've created our oat farm, though, we're going to need a porridge stand. So let's go ahead and make that porridge stand. Let's just go ahead and do it over here, right? We'll get that green check mark on the oats. The oats can just directly bring it over here to our porridge stand. And there we go. So what happens now is, I'm going to unpause. You're going to see a couple things. This oat farm is going to start operating. It's going to be an oat farm. And you'll see that this has got a pause button for productivity. And you've got this green bar of it going through a cycle of 1 productivity. And right now it's in critical productivity because it's taking time to process. That's that current process at the very bottom that says 36, 37, 38, what have you. So productivity is basically every single farm, refinery, production building ramping up its set production. So we don't have a single oat farm or oat produced yet, right? No oats have been outputted, and it'll output like, well, I think it's like 3 at a time or whatever. So this says missing storage. It doesn't have, the porridge stand doesn't have any oats to play around with. So we need to let this thing build itself through its productivity. So for example, let's go to the woodcutter. This is at 100%. It's working as efficient as it possibly can right now. and it's going to be dropping that all off at the sawmill, which is ramping up its productivity because we just recently placed both the sawmill and the woodcutter. So again, just really quick, because I said a lot right there. As productivity ramps up in the oat farm, then productivity will ramp up in the porridge stand until both are at 100%, in which case the need satisfaction of our pops will start to get met. This number is reflective of the actual amount of food that's coming in. And because this supply is coming in from our fishery, it's not at 100% yet. So it just needs to take time. Even though we've made both our porridge, our oat farm and porridge peddler, whatever the hell it's called, this is still at 0. So it just needs time to actually accumulate. So those are the needs of what we're dealing with. Let's talk a little bit now about public services and the area of effect buildings that we're going to be dealing with as well. So with public services, we get the first ability, or I guess the ability, to now have buildings that not only meet the needs of our populace, but also contribute to bonuses to any populace that it meets, or I guess touches. Both are not great words to use, and I am going to just keep moving forward with my example here. So market and tavern are our two first public services, regardless if you're here or on Albion. And what we can get from these is a need satisfaction, right? So the need satisfaction for markets is going to give us population and income. It says it right there. Population, income. Right here too, we get population and happiness. Now, there's also something to take into consideration. Now, it doesn't show it properly here. Weird. Okay, it doesn't show it there like it does for some other buildings. Like this, we'll use a better example of it a little bit later. But the need attributes of that location are these things. Having a market there gives us 1 population and 1 income. Having a tavern gives us 1 population and 1 happiness. But if I click the market, you'll see that all these little up chevrons are telling us that the market is in range of all these buildings. The green on the road denotes that as well. So if we take a look up here, right, you can see that if I were to have this building down here, it does not hit that building. It does not get the benefit of the market. But what the market also does is on the right side, you can see population +1 and income +1, in addition to the market's already present need that it provides. So this gives us area of effect abilities that will benefit from being within nested amounts of buildings. And that is going to be more apparent on other things. So we're going to build both the market and the tavern right here. And both of those are going to give us plenty of area effect things. And I'm actually going to move this little guy back here. And you'll notice that we're still at negative 125. Don't worry, we've got plans to start reversing that. So let's now talk. Okay, this guy is just having at me. He kind of looks like me without a beard, which is kind of upsetting. And this, perfect. So now we need to talk about something that's very important to this game. And we've touched on it very loosely right now, but it's production and how production is going to really ramp up your income, but also help you to understand things on a grander scale. So we've reached the point to fulfill the final need of our residences, right? We're building up our public services, we're building up our foods, but now it's time to talk about the fashion needs. Now these things are going to start very basic with the tunic. Putting the tunic onto these is going to have a need attribute of 2, and putting the pileus on here is a need attribute of income and happiness. A need attribute is different than the area of effect of a building. What I mean by that is, hovering over this tunic, you can see, clicking this tunic as you can see, looking at the spinner who makes tunics, need attribute is +2. So just fulfilling the need for these buildings, it provides 2 income. But the income area effect is what's important. So the spinner produces cloth, or well, tunics. It's cloth here, but the spinner produces tunics. Those tunics are then stored in your warehouse. You can see that there is a slot for them right here. So if I were to say build this over, let's just say here, you can see those bottom row of houses don't have the plus chevron or the up chevron. What that means is And this is what I was talking about with the area of effect buildings and why it is so important. Anything in range of the spinner gets +1 income. 19 buildings are going to get that. So I'm going to get plus 19 income because the spinner is in range of those buildings. But the need attribute of the spinner, this right here, need attributes income +2, is met for the whole island because that is being stored in the warehouse. And then these residents, my voice is cracking. I'm 37. You'd think I would have hit puberty by now. The resident will go and pull the tunic from the warehouse if they're not in range of the spinner. So that is why that is important. And that is why you're going to be able to ramp up your income, because basically we're at -107 just by simply building this here. Well, when we have the supply line for it, we're going to have positive 26 gold into our income coming in, right? So this would then be -81 if we're just looking at just base numbers. And if we take a look at the Pilius, it's the same thing. The need attribute is 1 income and the happiness is 1 income, but then the income area of effect of the Pilius Felter is +1. So again, one final example here is by dropping this down, I'm going to get 1 income from everything that's in range, but I will get 1 income from every residence that has this as a need. I hope that makes sense, but that is the most important thing. So what I'm going to do here now is establish the byproduct and then the actual thing here, and this one as well. And this gives me a chance to show you another important portion of production. So again, I'm just going to make these things kind of, ideally you would kind of put these a little bit further, right? So I'm going to do this over here because the hemp farm doesn't really matter where it is. Actually, no, place it. Like do a little thing over here. I know what I'm going to do. Look at that. And we'll do this around it. We can break this down a little bits if we want. There we go. And we'll do this right here to make our sheep farm. Because remember, both of these are required to make this. Now I want to show you what I've just done here. Take a look at this photograph. You can see that the sheep farm now has this circle around it, and the Pilius Felter does not. And the hemp farm now has this circle around it, but the spinner does not. Once we create portions of a production chain, it will have this circle to tell us that we have the production. Now, this can mean not necessarily that you've created a hemp farm, but you will have the means to have hemp in your warehouse. That means importing it from another settlement, which we'll talk about later in this video. So that's how that works. So now let's create our spinner, and we'll pop it here because it's going to give us tons of advantage. And remember, we're in range of this bad boy, and we're going to create our hat maker right here. So we're now going to have lots of income coming in. So remember, this is at 107. I'm going to unpause, and this will still take time to ramp up. This is going through the exact thing I was just talking about. Attribute effects are right here and how all those things come together. So that number is going to increase as we deal with it. But you'll also notice this too. 107 went up to 129. Why is that? Well, let's talk about upkeep. Every single building you produce, well, the majority of them, right? Like your residences don't necessarily have an upkeep. The need is their upkeep. But this hemp farm, for example, has this on the right over here. These are the upkeep units that you need. So for example, this hemp farm requires 4 denarii and 3 of our Libertas workforce. That's it. And if I press this pause button, it stops production, but it conversely also stops the upkeep requirement here. And other buildings, even stuff like this, our tavern, that's 10 denarii. This market, 10 denarii. If we take a look even at the trading posts, it has, there's your upkeep. Oh, no, never mind. Sorry. Fishery. There we go. That's what I meant to click. -6 denarii and -4 to our workforce. If I were to look at a warehouse, you can see the maintenance cost right there is 6 denarii and 4 of our workforce. So that's why you're going to reference this number right here whenever you're going to build more things for your city. Do I want to make, let's just say, the next production line? Well, I'm going to need more of this or more of that. And I can see it either through this pane right here, like, hey, okay, I've got enough Libertas to hit this maintenance, and I've got enough gold to hit it for now. But remember, we were at 107 before. So let's fast forward this and talk a little bit about income and how you can really help that out. So jumping back in here, I've sped up everything just to make it so that the productivity on our farm is near 100. Our sheep farm is near 100. And now our spinner and our felter are starting to divvy out the needs for things. And you'll look, I haven't done anything other than add more residents up here. But you'll notice that our previously negative 107 to then negative 129 is at positive 45 and growing. And this is the most important thing about income. You can do a bunch of trading, which we're going to talk about later. You can do a bunch of other things, but really the only thing you need to do to worry about income on the base level is just build more residents, because residents are then going to be met with hitting the needs that they need to make. Let's just make more over here. So this is going to go up even further, right? Because now these guys are all hitting the needs for this stuff. And most of them are in range of the felter, and then most of them are in range of the spinner. This further allows us to just double dip and get more and more income added in to something that was already there. So let's even take this too, right? And go ahead and make a little tiny block of citizens right around here. Remember what I said about this guy? We'll just move him over a little bit, right? Move this road to attach to it.
It is time we attracted a higher grade of resident in the plebeians.
That's the next part of the video. If you could just calm down over there, Ben Baldy or whatever his name is. So we just gone ahead and made just a couple more buildings. We'll just connect these guys with a road real quick. I don't want this will be nice to have a little. I like to have I like to accidentally destroy people's houses like a good absentee landlord. There we go. So now, again, we started this section at like 55 or 45 plus positive gold, right? So this is just the easiest way to get you to understand that gold is linked to your residents and linked to their needs. And you double stack those amounts by putting them in the area of effect of anything that has stuff like that on it. Remember, the market has that ability too, right? The market has that +1. And then we also, if you click on one of these locations, then we click this button, you can see what is happening. So I can tell, to help out balance my income, this one location is generating 7 income for me, 5 population, and then 2 happiness. That's this little magic button right here. I don't know if I was very eloquent on describing that, but that's how you would access that. And this is true of any building. Hey, this is generating for me 3 income, 1 population, whatever it is. This is generating for me all the stuff that it's generating, right? And it'll show you where it's getting those generations from, what's happening to it, how it's being affected by that stuff. So that's our income on a very base level. We'll get into more granularity of that when we talk about trading, but that's how you make money. I have a whole video on it linked in the upper right-hand corner. So our city is growing, right? And now we need to upgrade our residences and the city itself. So that happens naturally. Remember that one that was up here? Well, now we're a minor city because we reached the population of 200. So you can see now, since we're at 200, the next goal is 400, just basically doubling our population. But the effects on residents, take a look. Now it says minus 0.1 fire safety, which we'll talk about, and plus 0.1 belief, which, hey, guess what? We'll talk about. But now we also have to upgrade our residents, because any residence that has all of their needs met, we can now upgrade. So let's pause the game real quick, and we can press this button to upgrade. You can press the upgrade button right here, and it shows you all the ones that are valid. You can go ahead and click one, or you can press that upgrade button, and on PC you hold shift and highlight a bank of them. Everything in green will be upgraded immediately when I click this button. Usually that's going to be linked to some kind of limitation. Like I cannot do more than 15 to upgrade because the upgrade cost, right there, it says 1 timber. I only have 15 timber. So that's why I can't upgrade everything all at once. Oh, no, I'm gonna upgrade that one, huh? So we'll upgrade this whole little block here. There you go. If you want, you can press Shift plus I, and it will give you the detailed information of stuff like that on a moment's notice. So that stays up for me if I want. I can go do whatever I want, move everywhere else, and press Shift plus I again, and it gets rid of that. So I don't have to kind of always be looking at it. So it's just a different overlay. So that is how we're going to upgrade everything. But in upgrading, we now have different needs. So let's unpause the game real quick. And you can see that pops up here. Now we have the plebeians are now open to us. And we have a lot of other stuff to talk about. And production, which we've gotten to before, now is going to get spicier. And this is why I was saying that Latium is easier than Albion. And we're going to do this very easily by using this statistics menu. And I know this screen can look really scary, but basically this gives us a breakout of what the production is like across our entire per island basis. As we go to more islands, this will be even more powerful for you. And on just a production level, it gives us this, but it can help out with governance to show us where population, income, knowledge, belief, prestige, where things are falling off, what constant effects are running. So you will jump to the screen quite a bit. But you can see, for example, here, pretty much everything is running as it should. The sheep farm will kind of go up and down based off of your current stock. Like right now, I think I've got an oversupply of sheep. No, I don't. It's just taking time to get the output storage out there. So it's got too much in its actual, see how this says 6 of 6 sheep. So we need to actually quickly get these sheep over to this faster. So that is affecting the efficiency of the sheep. And I can see that from here, because right now I have a potential for 2 sheep with a demand for 1. That tells me that I can actually make another Pilius. Because remember, we come back over here, it takes 30 seconds to make sheep, and it takes 1 minute to make a Pilius. So let's go ahead and just drop another one right there. And that'll make it so that we're constantly exhausting the storage here. Now further though, we now have these advanced plebs, and these plebs have increased needs. As you can see, again, the 2 bread and those 2 garum, we need to deal with both of those. So this advanced production is going to really kind of come into line. Let's take a look at this right down here. We have a new building resource called tiles. So we'll click that and we have a production line. Pretty quick, pretty easy. I've gone ahead and made a road out to this river over here because we need a clay pit and we need a tiler. Now, tilers, not to be confused with the guy who drinks monsters, these take 1 minute to produce versus a clay pit takes 30 seconds. So 1 clay pit, we're going to build right there, can supply 2 tilers, right? Because in 30 seconds, I'm going to make 1 bit of clay, let's just say, and the tiler is going to take that single unit and turn it into tiles. And it's going to take me a minute. So basically, this clay pit is going to be sitting on a stockpile of clay. So we want to be able to push through that faster. So we'll go ahead and do this and just make another tiler there, another tiler there. We'll unpause so we can, right now the issue is we don't have enough materials. So that'll push its way through once this goes up. So then what this does for us is it allows for us to produce clay at a rate that both of these locations will be able to sufficiently have clay on hand to push through. But this is going to get more complex. And this is why I said before that Albion is harder than Latium, because Albion is got a lot of like minute 30 or minute 45, stuff like that. Also too, we need charcoal burning. That's a different thing outside of the purview of these two. It'll apply to a lot of buildings. That's why it's not directly in this chain, but it is needed. So we'll go ahead and make this as well. But this needs to go into a forested area, much like our wood chopper. We'll go ahead and pop it here, because what I want you to see is over on the right, area effect. So this is going to reduce the health and the fire safety of buildings around it. I don't want to place this around my populated area over here. I'm going to place it just over here. It'll be good. Like, I mean, all this is pretty awesome. So we just drop it right there. And now we've got a road right to it. So we'll be good to go. And as we build up timber, we'll have enough to produce those. And one thing too, you'll notice is that I've produced way out here, right? Because we needed to put this clay pit on one of these little river, oops, didn't mean to do that. On one of these river beds, river slots. You'll notice this says no warehouse in range. So it's going to produce it's going to store in its local storage of 6, and then it will stop because it has no warehouse in range. So we need to press this button for the warehouse to then make it in range. And it will do the same thing as this one does right here, because this is our parent warehouse. And what that's going to happen is once we get enough actual timber, we'll be able to push this through. And this is going to be a point too where you can look at this and go, man, I'm really running into an issue with timber. Well, we can go ahead and make another sawmill that will then produce more timber for us at a faster rate, since we'll have 2 producing. So we can go ahead and go like another one over here, because all this is going to cost us is upkeep, right? Well, I'm actually going to move this over here, because then it will take advantage of this warehouse right there. And there we go. Build that warehouse, and these tilers will be up soon. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit once these tilers have been created, and we're going to talk about another portion of advanced production, because this is the most thing to, probably the biggest challenge to understand, because this is pretty easy, but there's another layer to this. We've jumped a little bit ahead in advanced production to talk about the most important thing about all of this. It's this right here. And this is when you're going to start to feel the crunch of production. And production is really just a puzzle to be solved. All you really need to do is deal with how this production chain works. So we talked about the tiler, right? And how it's pretty easy. One clay pit is going to produce enough for 2 tilers. We're good. Well, look over here at the baker. So it's going to take 1 minute to make wheat, thresh wheat, and then 30 seconds to process that wheat into flour at the grain mill, and then 1 more minute back at the bakery. So you're going to notice that in the middle, we've hit a bit of a bottleneck, right? So if I look over here at the production tab, we can go down to where we can find those 3. Usually they're all grouped together. So the current potential for wheat is 1, but the demand is 2. And right here at flour, our potential is 2, the demand is 1. So what this is showing us here is that we cannot produce enough wheat to keep the flour's efficiency at 100%. It's at 2% right now, and it's just going to constantly fluctuate. It'll probably hit around 50 and drop down and go up and drop down and go up, because it's going to produce the flour so quickly that the wheat cannot, that the baker can't produce bread fast enough, and the wheat cannot come out fast enough. So the flour mill is just going to sit on its ass. So how do we combat that? It's certainly not to make more grain. And you can see I've got each one right here. We've got our wheat farm, we've got our grain mill, and we've got our bakery. The issue is that we need to have enough wheat to satisfy both of these. And the context clue is right here. Demand potential is 2, current potential is 2, and our current potential for wheat is only 1. So that's what we need to fix. So we're just going to go ahead and copy our, that's the warehouse. Again, what an amazing YouTuber I am. We're going to go ahead and copy this wheat farm right here, make another wheat farm. Just going to try to make this whole big block of wheat look pretty cool. Bring it down a little bit more, do that. Again, this isn't really, the place in these doesn't really matter for efficiency. It's just bothering me for, aha, there we go. So we have 2 wheat farms now that are going to satisfy the need of this single grain mill. And if we come back over here, we can see it won't be, remember, everything takes time to ramp up, right? But we can still see now 2 for 2. This is going to be 2 and 1 for 1, and we're good. So we now see that this is going to come through properly. We could even probably make another baker to fit this, but we would be just fine. We would need to kind of double that across the board, because technically, if we're not thinking about wheat, 2 flour mills can satisfy 1 bakery, but we need to provide enough back and forth to get this going. You probably just want to put 1 more mill down here to thresh it all, but that's going to increase our potential upward. So that's how this menu really helps you out. If you notice, man, I've created the things, why is it not pushing through for me? This is because you've created a bottleneck somewhere in your production line, and you just need to find it and you're good to go. So that is how that really works out. And one thing too, to close this section out, let's take a look at this bakery. Take a look at this photograph. Every time I do it makes me laugh. This bakery here, it's going to produce quite a bit of money. And I have it over here secluded. And you can see that just from this location right here, right? If I click on these buildings, if it has an effect, an area effect, it will tell me right in that location. Let's move this bakery over. But it also is going to increase my fire safety. Well, decrease my fire safety, which is this new tab up here, Island Fire Safety. And you can see all the things that are affecting that tab. So let's now move this to a location where it's going to give me way more money. Probably, I mean, honestly, if I dropped it in the dead center. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move some stuff around to show you fire safety and how that kind of gets affected by this. Move one more. There we go. So watch our fire safety. It says negative 63. I'm going to pause and place this down. Negative 63 just jumped up to negative 144. And our income was negative 32. Now that says plus 119. So you can see how those things are really going to play to such a heavy hand for income and for production. But now we get to talk about fire safety. So as someone from Southern California, I can tell you how much fire safety really means to me. So let's start off by taking a look again at the big contributing factors. We get that by hovering over this tab, which we took a look at just a little bit ago. So we can see that we have from area of effects and specialists, bread, Tyler, and charcoal are all causing this. And then from buildings, it is again, charcoaler and our bakery. So those things are really ramping up our fire safety in a negative, and also just the fact that we are a tier 2 city plays into this. So let's try to mitigate it. And it's a pretty easy thing to mitigate. We go ahead and click down over here to City Watch, or you know what, we'll press the B building for build. I don't want that. We'll press this City Watch building, and we see the Vigilus. This is the City Watch, and this is going to give us +2 fire safety for everything in the area of effect. So by placing this, you can just see this is going to give us, if we took a look at that, +2 fire safety, and then affected buildings is 52. So that's going to give us what? 104 positive fire safety. So this is an example of just trying to put things in locations where it has the most impact on you and your entire city. So let's just move these things around again too. Remember I said nothing is permanent. Pop things around. This might affect the range of other things. But let me show you a kind of a cool little trick too that kind of probably should have been in another location. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this down. So that is now going to change our fire safety drastically, right? Plus 98 is the total amount that this is going to affect. But if I go ahead and want to move any of these things around, I want to see what's affected. Let's go ahead and press this button. Watch this building, this building, this building, and this building. You see right now there's that little bounding box around it. When I click it, see those bounding boxes? This tells me that those 3 buildings are in range to benefit this location. If I move this over here, it would tell me that again, the same thing. But conversely, if I were to move it down over here, notice how those bounding boxes disappear, right? So you don't always have to keep going like, okay, oh, okay, that's in range. Is it still in range? Okay, it's in range, cool. You just need to simply click this and look at what's being highlighted by what you drag around. This gives you an idea of where to place things so you don't have to be so consumed with what's giving what bonuses to what. And then, of course, too, you press this button to get that information. So this is how we mitigate quite a bit of fire safety in your more turbulent regions of your city. And it tells you what kind of incident threat that could happen. Also, this is a cheesier thing. Please, I'm telling you this because you're going to discover it, and I'm just showing it to you. If you have a fire that pops up, let's just say it's like right here, you could just do that. And now these guys are right here to immediately attack the fire. Play the role play of it, have fun with it. Don't necessarily get so cheesy with it, but I want you to know that that does exist. But that is a way you're going to deal with fire safety in your island. So we've dealt with income, we've dealt with production, we've built all this great stuff. But what about our villa? What about prestige? How does that work? Well, it's funny you ask, because that's the next subject of what we're going to talk about right now. And let's do it by fixing these roads that have somehow disappeared. We're going to go ahead and bring up our building again. We're going to click on this, the villa set. The game even telling me, make a villa. And we have a governor building. What's our area of effect? +1 prestige. That's huge. But do know, it does have quite a steep maintenance cost of 50 gold. It has 1,000 construction cost in gold as well, and quite a bit of timber. But we're going to click it, and it's got this big, huge circle. That circle is going to be true of your governor's villa. Yeah, gotcha. And your officium. This has a smaller circle. This is basically an extension of your specialist capabilities, which brings us to our next topic within this. So let's go ahead and drop this bad boy down. And everything in that circle is going to get a benefit. So right now our prestige is not on this bar at all. Drop this down. Now it is. Everything that is in range of that villa is going to give us 53 total prestige. What does prestige do? It allows us to impress it allows you to enhance your villa and improves your standing with other governors. Now, prestige is not just simply done through our villa. We also have this button right here, ornaments. This is the thing I have probably the most fun with when it comes to this game. We can now place ornaments in locations. So let's go, I'll show you kind of what I would do. Please have fun with this. This is meant to be like a really cool, creative way to approach customizing your city to look how you want it to look. This is kind of why I make these little blocks like this. Oops. Great. Press this ornament tab again. Do like a thing like this in here and a thing like that in there. And then we make these things. They do cost money. So for example, this is going to cost 10. Maybe it's not a lot. Maybe it is. It depends on what it is. And I like to add a little like flair to my island. So it looks really cool. It looks really fun. Like over here, let's drop like a Celtic statue, rotate it around. And you can rotate by simply using the period button to rotate stuff. If you so wish. We add some trees here. And each time I'm doing this, you can see it's increasing our prestige through ornamentation right there. And it just kind of adds, just like I said, a little bit of flair. Makes the island look really cool, really alive, like an actual Roman location. What's the term I'm thinking of? What is this thing? A city? Like this. No, not this one. That little guy there, and put like some more trees. Just have fun. Do whatever you want. Literally whatever you want. Does not matter. I'm sure some affect others. I'm sure there's a min-max to it, but I just want to have fun placing things. So that's what I'm doing. And it increases our prestige. Prestige will then make it so that talking to other governors becomes easier. So if I click on a governor here, we can see that their opinion of me is changed because of, this is insignificant right there for against, that's because of my prestige level. I need to have higher prestige for this person to be more impressed with me. So it helps with diplomacy, which will be a subject that we talk about quite shortly. So now that we've got that, we've got our prestige established, let's quickly talk about, this is the wrong way. There we go. Let's quickly talk about our specialists. Now specialists will inhabit these slots right here. So if I click this, it looks like I have a specialist that I can assign here. What does this do? Remember that big circle that this thing has? Specialists give bonuses to anything in that circle. And those bonuses will apply to a number of things. Maybe it'll apply to markets. Maybe it'll apply to all residences. Maybe it'll apply to all production buildings. Whatever it is, specialists are unique. You can purchase them through locations in the game. You can get them through doing the Hall of Fame, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I think I start with one over here, right? Yeah, I've got these two over here that I can appoint to certain things. Some of them will only be appointable to like, so for example, this one is a captain and can only be appointed to an actual ship, versus this one is a specialist that can only be appointed to the specialist slots on locations. So if we jump back over here, click this button, we can see that our Menander of Nicomedes is a religion specialist, and he will increase belief in area effect as well as knowledge and reduce upkeep costs. That is huge. So that's going to apply. And here's our island belief. Watch this as I unpause. That will start to go up as, is it gonna? Oh, sanctuaries and phantoms. Okay, sorry. This is not going to apply to everyone. It only is going to specifically apply to sanctuary and phantoms that we've built, which are part of this location right here. And this is going to bring us into our next two topics. Let's talk about research and religion. The research is pretty straightforward, but it all starts with this building right here, the Grammaticus. The Grammaticus is going to increase knowledge and an area effect around it. So we'll click this and we'll go ahead and find places to place it. And on the right side, we're going to use that affected buildings to our advantage like we've been doing the rest of this the rest of this entire game. So right now that's 32. Over here, it's like 27, I think was the max over here somewhere. Maybe I was over that. Yeah. So around here is like 23. Up here is like 25. Over here is 26. And we could place it over here, or we could move things around and smack it in the middle, wherever you really want. But let's go ahead. This is not a bad place for it right here. This is 32. Place it right there. So now you can see we have 32 times 3 is 96. We have 96 knowledge coming in every minute. What does that mean? Well, we're going to now press this. Control T to open up our research, or this button on the left side of the screen. And here is all of our research. This allows us to sift through the 3 different branches. Now, you can see that we're making 96 knowledge a minute, like I said before. And we can go down the economic branch, the civic branch, the military branch. I'm not going to tell you which one to go down. I want you to explore and find out which one makes the most sense for you and your play style. But just know that there are certain things that exist in these things. Like, for example, this will make it so that all of my spinners now produce knowledge in addition to the income that they produce. This is going to help upgrade our trading posts. I'm going to actually unpause this real quick. There we go. Yeah, it allows that to click through. This allows us to, I was making sure that was actually still recording, trading post improvements here. This makes it so that fishing huts will now give us income in an area of effect. That's huge. So a lot of crazy things are in here, but also the ability to worship different gods is locked in here or right here. So make sure you push through these, and some of them will not be achievable because maybe you're in Latium or maybe you're in Albion and you can't do them. Like, for example, oh, which one is it? There's one that's like, yeah, okay. Choose the Roman path in Albion and house mercators in your merchants in your realm. So this is if you're playing in Albion. You don't have to worry about that here. Well, you can get to that by pushing through your campaign a lot. So some of these you won't be able to access, and you'll just have to kind of deal with that. But there's also these things called inspirations. Now, inspirations are basically hitting a certain target. Reach the city status, growing city, and generate at least 500 knowledge, or establish a trade route in Latium and generate 500 knowledge, or this is for Albion, build a barracks and generate at least 500 knowledge. Once you reach these inspirations, it then unlocks this whole portion of the tree. So this might look super scary, but basically think of it as a bunch of little nested cells. These first ones are always accessible to you, well, depending on where you are, right? And then these inspirations basically gate you into the other portions of these. You don't invest a number of points into economic to get into here. You just simply need to establish a trade route, and then it's open to you. So you do need to unlock the path into it. But my point is you don't have to do like a lot of talent trees like our RPG. Spend 5 points here, and then you get this one. It's technically it would be 1 point, 2 points, 3 points. Because know that each one of these trees has multiple branches to start. You can start either here, here, or here to branch out, or here and here to branch out, or here, here, and here. So progress through the research tree in a way that makes sense for the way that you want to play. But the research tree is something you should always have things brewing, and you can queue up a number of them if you so wish, and just kind of push through that as you want. And you can drag and drop them to swap around the locations. It'll tell you, this lacks an adjacent research node, so you need to actually get that one first. So it'll tell you if something's out of place, but researching is going to be key to your success in this game. Now, the other edge of that coin is religion. So let's take a look at that. You can see it right now. It's currently padlocked because we need to reach a belief of 50. We can't do that until we make a sanctuary. And this is just basically a temple. Well, no, that's not technically true because there's also a term for temple and shrine. No, it's a temple. I'm right. There's a shrine button. So you can see here, this is going to affect 54 buildings. It's going to give us 0.5 knowledge, and that's mainly because of our specialist, right? And also it's going to give us 3.5 belief for every single residence it hits. We're about to pop off in the religion department. I can probably move this around, see if there's any other better spots. That's 56, 53, there's 57 over here. I'm a big fan of I like to orient the buildings the way they're like supposed to be presented. Like I could do this if I wanted, but to me, I need to enter in through the front, not the side. So I'm just gonna pop this bad boy right here. So we did that. Look at that. Look at our belief skyrocket, right? It went all the way up super fast. And now we have the religion tab open and we can assign a patron god. So patron gods can be assigned per island. So each island can have a different patron god. Now to start off, you'll only have Ceres here, Ceres, Neptune, and Mars. As you play the game, you will then unlock Minerva, Mercury, Epona, Cernunnos, and there is another one as well. No. Sorry, it's just those two for now. And you'll unlock them either through research or the Hall of Fame, which we'll talk about in our next section because it's relevant to a lot of stuff. So what you should know though is you've got two different ways to look at this tree. The top is your devotion, your belief. That bar will start to hit these individual milestones, and these milestones will then give you benefits. It'll depend upon the god, but let's look over here at Ceres first. Ceres first. She has a benefit to the production tree of each one of these byproducts. So we talked about bread earlier, right? So this is going to give an increased production of bread and flour and wheat. And porridge is going to help out with oats, or olive oil is going to be olives and oil, or beer is malt and barley. So all those things are going to be given a benefit or a bonus to their production. And you can see each one of these top nodes requires a certain amount of devotion, and then will give us that corresponding reward. 10, then to 20. Those don't stack. It's 20% is the flat bonus. Into 30, 40, ad nauseum, all the way up to plus 100%. Now the bottom has certain other breakpoints. You can see that once I hit 250, I now will also get plus population. But how do I get that population? All residences provide additional population. If you want a god that's very strong to begin with and you're just learning the game, go this one. This is going to be the absolute best. It's just you'll explode in population and you'll explode in income from that population, right? Because the income is going to be directly related to that population, and you'll have just tons of production. It'll be through the roof. But you can see like some of these, like even Mars is a really good one because you can produce a bunch of weapons and sell those weapons on trading if you want to do that later. So once you assign yourself a god, we're going to go ahead and do this one. You'll see this bar start to grow. I'm getting there, man. You don't jump ahead of me, Ben Baldy. And as that Tarragon, not now. As this bar grows, so does our global scale of that. Provide devotion to a patron to unlock an exaltation effect. Those exaltation effects happen at 1,000, 4,000, and 7,000, regardless of the god. And those will be shrines, which will give population and health, for example, for our god, or Neptune, like it gives income and fire safety. It just depends on what it is. These are shrines that you build. Or this plow here, all farms can support up to 50% more field modules, allowing an increase of up to 50% productivity. So remember we talked about how the way that the wheat farm works, this is going to change how your wheat farm operates. It wouldn't just simply be on that 1 minute scale anymore. It would have a 50% increase to that. So I think it's then 130. So it changes everything for you. Or this one increases storage limit on all islands by 300. It's not tons. It's like teneniums or something like that. It's there's a term for it. It's in the actual game. It's now I have to find what it is. Talentums. So you can see how religion, oops, wrong button, how religion is really important in this game. And on another island we go to jump on, maybe I want that island to solely produce weapons for me. Well, we'll just go ahead and worship Mars. It doesn't go into this global chain, but it'll build its own one for Mars. So you can see how these operate on its own. Just this island is producing just this. But if I had multiple islands producing, let's just say 200, let's say I had 3 islands producing 200, then we'd be at a total of 600 devotion here. So just know how those things play together, because gods are a huge part of this game, as you would imagine, a game set in ancient Rome. So I've brought this up a number of times, but I want to talk about the Hall of Fame and the Accolades, because they are not necessarily important, but they're fun to chase and they give you cool things. So I'm going to click my character at the top, and we've talked about the statistics screen and all the production, the governance, and the effects, but we also have the Hall of Fame and the Accolades. So Hall of Fame has 2 separate Hall of Fame bars, and we have Accolades. Accolades contribute to your Hall of Fame. Think of it this way. Accolades are achievements. You get achievement points that you can then spend. If you played a game like Helldivers 2, for example, Helldivers 2 has a way to like spend points, right? And then it unlocks more chains. We'll talk about that in a sec, but that's how you'd work it. So let's look over here at Loyal Roman. Build every fashion product chain in Latium. If I build all 12 of them, I get 15 points, or have at least 2,700 excess workforce. No, we don't have that. You know, like have the highest devotion to your exalted patron god of all governors in Latium. You do all those things. Each one of these is going to give you 15 across the board, or 30 maybe here. Then you claim the total pool. So once you've done all 9, you get an additional 90. Then you go to the Hall of Fame, you click Latium or Albion, whichever one, and you spend that fame on whatever you want. So for example here, you'll have most of this unlocked just by starting the game. This gives you access to Neptune or Ceres or Mars right out the gate. But if we jump into tier 3, I can get access to Mercury without having to research it. Or we can come over here and I can get like individual, I can get I call him Ben Baldio, but I know it's not that. We can get this or these different cool triumph arcs, because that's another thing of the Hall of Fame. You get a bunch of different, okay, here's another ornament. Here's more ornamentation, or skins, stuff like that. Or you get this actual specialist that's now unlocked for me, or governor portraits, whatever you want. It's all in these locations. Like for example, here too, if I want Cernunnos, I would have to just get to tier 3 or this governor's portrait because I want to play like a legionnaire. That's how I would do it. So that is why the Hall of Fame and Accolades are important, and how they directly contribute to different things that you're going to encounter within the game. We've established the basics of our city. There's really not a whole ton more to dive into, but we still need to expand. So we're going to talk about expanding. We're going to go into some building another settlement, and then we're going to close our video out talking about trade. After that, it's really up to you to build however you want. So let's take a look at something here. We know we need to expand, and we know we're going to start to run out of space here for the range of our, go away, the range of our tavern and the range of our market. Both of those things are going to start to get pretty cramped up, right? So let's start to build out in this direction. We can go ahead and manually do this, copying and just going boom, boom, boom. Maybe like that. Maybe like this as well. And then I'm going to go press the copy button again. Click the market. Click the copy button again, and click the tavern. So I've now expanded a whole block to the left, right? This whole region is now expanded out. And what I want you to know, and why I chose that, is I knew that here's my center thing. I need to kind of stay within the range of this as best I can. And you know what? Maybe this is an example of something where we can kind of start to go, well, I decided to expand this way, not this way. So it makes maybe more sense to shift this over a little bit. And shift this over a little bit. So now we have more locations. I'm sorry, click this. Yeah, we have now more locations we can hit on the left side. We have this whole back area we can start to expand into as well. And this also means that we have gotten this, a tavern and a market here, which there's tons of overlap right here. These little just kind of solid icons tell us there's overlap. They're not going to give a benefit to those locations. That's fine, because I'm not thinking about those locations. I'm thinking about whatever I expand over here. You have to kind of think of, you're not going to make one thing and be done with it. You're going to make multiple things. An example alone would be just your production line, right? You're going to make multiple wheat farms. But we're going to eventually need to make more sanctuaries. We need to make more Grammaticus. We're going to need to make more vigiles, more markets, more taverns. Shit, even more bakeries. But we're also going to be, where the hell's the town watch? Yeah, the vigilance. Okay, yeah, okay, I'm okay with that. But let's go ahead and put roads here and roads there, and we can see that now will hit these buildings, and we're good. And this sanctuary, which we just built, will now hit this direction, what has just been added on. Same thing here with this Grammaticus. That gives us plenty of leeway to expand our population and give us more accessibility from the buildings we've already created. So we've done all that. Let's talk about now settlements and island fertility. Diplomacy is going to be a big part of this game. Before we start to get into a lot of the other things that we're going to interact with diplomacy with, let me just get you an introduction to that now. So right now we're taking a look at Dorian's Island. Every single diplomatic entity on the map, governor, neutral traders, emperor's representative, everything, will have usually one of these little things outside of it. You can go ahead and press this button, Control D, to open up your diplomacy. And you can see Dorian here. We get relative just kind of scaling against each other. I have better economic power, all these things. You can see all this stuff through this, and you can get a sense for what their kind of AI is like. They like to start to favor these things or whatever it is. Also, there are traits, as it were, down here. But if we go ahead and press this little shaking hands thing, we can now take a look at some further. Okay, yeah, I know, man. I'm burning the midnight oil over here. We can have a better idea of actions that we can and cannot do. Taking a loan out, and you can do 3 different fixed APR loans, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say talking about a video game. But basically, he's going to give you a lump sum, and you have to pay him back across multiple minutes. Let's just say it's like 90 minutes, and it's like a 16% APR. So that loan is if you really, really need some money. You can offer him a gift to give him money. You can enter war, which is obvious. You can enter a non-aggression pact, a trade treaty, a defensive pact, alliance, appoint as a specialist, means you usually either like subjugated him or you persuaded him, or of course right here, consul subjugate into a specialist. So you have these 2 options here. So one's usually not as nice. But how do you build your standing with them? Well, as you can see right here, one of the first things is just simply increasing your prestige, which we talked about before, but also contracts. So that contract thing we talked about before, if I go ahead and click on this, I know. We have a bunch of contracts that Dorian will let us do. So for example, here we can go collect 2 crates. We have an hour timer on it, and he's going to reward us with money. Or 2 crates here, less time, more money. Or we need to give him 9 units of olive oil. He'll give us a specialist, which is the preacher, which gives us belief, and also money. But this doing contracts with them will help to bolster our standing so that we can eventually establish trade routes with them. And also diplomacy, but the trade route, that's how we would do that trade route through the trade treaty. But there's other ways to do that. So we'll talk about trade in just a little bit, but I wanted to give you a crash course quickly in diplomacy. So now it's time to expand not our city, but off of our settlement here, off our island. Because let's take a look at our needs. Our needs dictate everything, right? They're king. And we do have a need eventually for amphorae and for olive oil. We need more plebes to do that. So let's just go ahead and fill that really quick. We'll make some more plebes. I know. How awesome is that, man? I did all these things for you. I think we're like just there, right? There we go. So what I want you to see now is these start to get pretty elaborate, right? We're starting to have really crazy production trees, and we have increased resources. Now we're into like the second tier of resources that we have to take a look at. This is where island fertility comes in. Let's take a look over here. This is our island fertility. We talked about this in the UI, right? So we can do mackerel, flax, murex snails, oysters, sturgeons, and iron. That was only thing that is on this island. But if I were to look at this needs olives. This needs resin. This needs lavender. So we need to find an island that has those things. Remember how we had our flagship jump around and look for stuff earlier? Well, we've discovered all these islands across the map. And as I click to these islands, watch this. See how that changes? Every single one of these now shows us a different set of everything here. Different mountain slots, different river slots, different island fertilities. So we want to find resin, lavender, and olives. So this is a pretty good spot. It's pretty close to our location. And it also has oysters and iron, also grapes. But you know what? I jumped around to these before I filmed this section, and I thought I couldn't find anything closer to my island. So I'm over here. So this one has lavender, resin, olive, grapes, iron, and gold. So at least we get the benefit of gold over here. So if I take a look, I've already moved my flagship towards one of the shores of this island. You want to look specifically for one of these beaches like this, or like over here would be another example. Over here would be an example. I think there's only 3. Yeah, these don't count. But those, any one of those 3 locations, which then brings up this little thing right here, our unsettled island. So settling this island will impose a land tax of 50 per minute. The distance from your home base, your original island, is how much this trading post will cost. So I'm going to press this button, and now we have a trading post. So basically, and it makes the Heroes of Might and Magic sound. Basically, we now have spent 12,500. We have sunk all of our denarii, and we start over again on this island. And there's a quick way to do a lot of this we're going to talk about next, but what you'll also notice is you'll usually get loan offers. So we talked about loans before in diplomacy, right? So here's these fixed APR interest rates, 16%. She'll give me 5,000. I have to pay her back an extra 800 over the course of an hour. This just automatically hits my income bracket. Like I don't have to do anything. It'll automatically detract. So if I, let's say I was only making 100 a minute, well, then I would only make 3 a minute after I click this button. Or a predatory loan, which will be 1,000 a minute, but I get 50K. So you can see these are going to have a bunch of different things. The amount that they are going to offer you is based off of your affiliation with them, but it's mainly what their coffers are like. So they can't afford this. So we can't ask for these, but we're not going to accept this loan because we're okay. Sometimes on normal, they'll just go, okay, you don't want the loan. Here's just 10K. A lot of other people, once you build your first island, will offer this to kind of offset the trouble of going through it. So now that we've done all that, how do we do this quickly? Because now we have to deal with all of these things. So let's talk about now establishing our next settlement. So in this settlement, we can go about building it just like we did before, if we want. But now we know what to do, right? We know the kind of the ins and outs of how to approach this quickly. And I know what I want from this settlement. I want to take a look at, let's just click. We'll click here. I can make pigs wherever I want. I can make a renderer wherever I want, charcoal the same. And I can also make the soap maker wherever I want. So how do I really take advantage of this to the fastest of my ability? Well, I really want to turn this island into my lavender island. I want to produce tons of lavender here. So that's going to be the primary focus, because what I want to do on my main island, I want to have the soap maker there, because look at that area effect +1, health -1 to the happiness, but health and population. This is an example of one that's really amazing, but like this one here gives income. So I want that potter on my main island, or this one here gives health. I want that olive press on my main island. So I use these settlement islands as just production factories to produce whatever I need. So, but we still need to establish 2 things, a population and a resource income. Because you can see at the bottom here, the timber and tiles, there's 0. If I click back to my other island, it's 50 and 50. And I deliberately had them overflow over here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to unpause the game. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my flagship. I want to bring it back to my island. And I'm going to load my flagship with timber and tiles. And I'll show you how this is done using the trade route mechanics. But ideally, if you were to kind of put this together, I broke it up so that you could understand the process for this. Ideally, you would build that trade post with these already loaded in so that you immediately dump them and it can start building. But before we do that, let's talk about setting up this island using the fancy build mode. So we have this thing called planning mode, and planning mode allows us to lay out an island before even committing anything. So you can see we press this little button right here. It's V to toggle it. So even if I don't have a building up right now and I press V, it will toggle it on and off. So pressing, there's no real way to know that you're in that mode aside from just going ahead and try to make a building. So we're in planning mode. So if I press left click, it just creates the skeleton of this building. Then if I click on it and click this right here, it constructs the building. So what I get to do right now is this. Let's go ahead and break that down. We know, I'm just going to put everything in this special planning mode. I know that we're still going to need a woodcutter for just some basic lumber. And we can probably go about this by just dumping stuff, but we're just going to just show off some fancy stuff. So we'll go ahead and place this here. We're going to make a road to those locations because we're still going to need to go to them. And there we go. So that's basically how that is done. And we can go ahead and actually make these because all they cost is gold to make. I'm going to unpause the game like I said I was going to. But now that the game is rolling right now, we're not paused, right? I'm going to go ahead, keep us in that build mode, and I'm going to lay out a bunch of population. So I'm going to do it, say like over here, because lavender can be placed anywhere. You don't need to do these. I just really like doing them like this because I like that whole little center cap thing. You don't need to do that if you don't want. And you can do the same thing as if you are doing this on your other island, right? You can move things around, but you can also take this thing, drag it, and now just kind of plop these things down as you see fit. I get a little messed up there, huh? Man, there's something causing. I don't like that. We're going to build over here. So I'll take this. Must be something that this must cause it to kind of glitch out a little bit, but that's fine. Move this over here. I don't like it. I don't like how that does that. Remember, I was like, you don't need to be crazy about this. You can just move it however you want. So whatever. So that is all set to go. But you know what? We needed more things. We basically jump back to this. We need a fishing hut because we need to supply them with food. Go ahead and fix that right there. We need porridge because we need to supply them with some food. And we could make this on the other island and bring it back. But what we're going to do here is do that. I'm just going to construct all this out real quickly. There we go. We'll eventually need a porridge stand, which I'll make. Oops, this has got to go over one. I guess over two because it's a weird island. Porridge stand. Which again, well, I guess will be over two. And we'll also need to make a market. And a tavern. So that's all laid out for me. And all I need to do now is this guy is just about back at our home city. And we can load him up with all the necessary materials to kind of get things going. Let me jump back to this island real quick. And I know that the big thing I'm going to want to make too is a bunch of lavender growers, which need tile. So what I'm going to do is slap these just back here real quick for the sake of this video. Just kind of plopping them somewhere. I'm going to make a bunch of lavender field. Perfect. Drag this one over this way. So I made those two lavender fields, and we'll just need to have roads around all this. Roads around these. That's why. I mean, don't get crazy, right? Don't get crazy at all like I'm doing right here, right now. I was wondering why that was also cattywampus, which is a term I don't think you thought you would be seeing in this, hearing in this video today, but it is happening here right now. Okay, drag this. Perfect. Oh my gosh. There. Geesh. Remember when I pressed the copy tool and not the move tool? And again, another example of why I make the best YouTube videos known to man. Nah, I'm just upset. You can mass delete things too if you so wish, but there we go. This video probably be like way shorter if I hadn't spent so much time doing all that. There we go. And they got roads connecting these. Perfect. So that is now all set up. And all I need to do now is come back to this, press this button to transfer, and we load up, let's just say 20. No. This button down here, we want to do change the amount. Let's just load in 5 for this portion of the video, because the next thing we're going to talk about is trade, and 5. So there we go. That is now loaded. And all we would need to do is do the same thing back at the island we want to go to. So let's now talk about trade. So one of those last subjects, again, is going to be trade. And establishing trade is pretty easy. You can do it with other other governors. You can do it with neutral trading governors. You can do it with your own islands, or you can do it with the Emperor's representative. So that's what we're going to focus on right here. So here is the Emperor's representative, which we've discovered on this portion of the map. And if I click this, their dock, this shows me all of what they offer. They offer lavender and timber and tiles, and they request hand mirrors, pigs, and bird tongues in aspic, which is, a favorite. But they also do this. This is specifically for the Emperor's representative, no one else. This trader will buy anything you have to offer. This is one of the most important things to know about trading. You need to find the Emperor's representative because this allows for this. If I jump over to this character over here and I click on their dock, you don't have trade rights, so I can't even do anything. I would have to go find the neutral trader, which is actually like right here. And I can only trade what they request. In this instance, we can trade anything that is overstocked, which is the key here. So we're going to press this button, trade routes, or press T on the keyboard, and we can see everything on the map. So here is my home island. We're going to go ahead and press new trade route. I only have one ship right now. It's this character right here. And we do have stuff on the ship, and that's fine. It'll figure itself out. But this allows me to click this character where we start, and I can also click my other island. So if I want, I can just ferry goods that I want to, like, hey, remember we talked about tiles and wood? I can have this thing every time it comes back to my home port, go and drop off tiles at this port so that they can use those tiles to produce everything that they want to produce. And that's great, right? It just allows me to ramp up tons of production that way. Or I can take these, which are pretty much my only surplus, and trade them. Let's load a good. Let's look at our goods here. Actually, we got quite a bit of hats, man. Let's sell some hats. So I'm going to load up my Peleus. I'm going to click this again, and I'm going to bring this number down. Let's just do 20, because it means every time it touches my home port, it's going to be quite a bit. And we can remove by doing this. So technically, what you could do, you could have this. Okay, I'm going to load up goods that I want to offload on this island, then load up more goods on this island, and then go sell them at this island, and then come back and repeat that process. So you're basically building a loop here. So in this case, I'm going to go from here with goods to here, drop off goods, pick up goods, sell goods, come back, pick up goods, drop off ad nauseum again. But we're just going to do a simple trading route from my island to the Emperor's representative. We just click those locations. So the top denotes a sell, the bottom denotes a buy. Just like the top denotes an unload, which is the same thing as a sell, and the bottom denotes a load, which is the same thing as a buy. So we want to load whatever hats and sell those hats right there. It'll tell you like, hey, this good's not unloaded on this chain. You need to unload it. Well, there we go. So once we do that, we would simply press establish route, and our ship that we've put in that will go find its way. So this is my trade. This is my flagship, right? It's now going back to our parent island. It's going to unload everything that it can and then bring them over here to sell. And that is how you would establish trade. But remember, trade isn't just simply buying and selling. It is also offloading all of the items that you have to another island to help maintain that island's whatever it is, right? Maintain their production, what have you, so on and so forth. So we've covered a lot of stuff. And we didn't go into war and those mechanics. We didn't go into ship and naval combat. We didn't talk about a ton of things that are a little bit more advanced. But I think now you have an understanding of how to play this game on such a basic level that you can get into those things without worrying too much. Everything devolves to the needs of your populace. If you take care of those, why is there Cockney Romans? As long as you are taking care of those needs, you are increasing your income, you're increasing your belief, your religion, you're helping out with your prestige, you're moving the ball forward. Hey, this is my pleb. They need these needs. They need these needs and these needs. But those needs require me to jump to a new island, which is over here. There we go. Jump to a new island. And now that I'm on this island, I can start to build all the things that I've started to work towards, right? Like we started to get a whole bunch of lumber, and now I can start taking advantage of all that. So you take little steps in this process by building up the things that your citizens say they need. And once you do that, you will snowball everything else in this game. Now, there are a lot more nuance to it, and there's of course going to be some more complexity, but hopefully this gives you a better idea on how to approach building your first city in Anno 117. If you have any other questions, let it be known in the comment section below. This is not the most complex game in the world, but there is complexity in this game, and the further and the deeper you get, the complexity will start to unravel. And if you have these basics down, that complexity will not be scary. You'll be able to hit it head on. And if you're struggling, don't worry. Just keep pushing through it and you'll eventually break through. I know when I first jumped in, the thing that would hang me up the most is the production. Okay, this is 30 seconds. This is 30 seconds. This is 1 minute. Okay, that's an easy production loop. This is 2 minutes. Okay, got it. Make one of these, and 2 of these. Oh, but you know what? We actually need to make more of these and more of these to fit the fact that now we have 2 of these, right? So we double this line to then hit this, which is on a 2-minute basis. Like you learn these things as you put it through, and breaking it down into those numbers is the easiest way to kind of consolidate how to push through everything. Once you jump into Albion, it is a little bit trickier. If you want a video exclusively for Albion, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. But again, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. A huge shout out and thank you to Ubisoft for sponsoring this video. Remember, you can pick up Anno 117 Pax Romana on any kind of PC platform, Ubisoft Connect, Steam, as well as the Epic Game Store. And you can also buy the game on Xbox as well as PS5. It is out now. But as always, have a good one and take care.